Hello everyone, welcome to the Social Doctor, a platform for the doctors by the doctors. And today we have Major Dr. Abhishek Rathore with us. He has done his MBBS from AFMC, as well as he has done his MD and DNB in anesthesia. He currently he's working as an associate consultant in the Department of Anesthesiology in Shanti Mukund Hospital, Karkarduma, Delhi. Welcome, Dr. Abhishek. You know, three
Thank
days
you.
back, 3 days back, I just posted, a query on my page. If you have any questions, please let us know. And we have got a lot of questions, so I'm sure we will try to cover all of them. Let's start with your journey. Something that you want to start with about yourself, a brief about yourself.
Firstly, thank you, Dr. Ayushi, for having me on your platform. And I would like to say a very good morning to all the viewers. I started with my journey from my alma mater, Armed Forces Medical College. So to get into Armed Forces Medical College, I gave the exam which was then a separate exam at that point of time. Today, the journey can be started by entering the NEET entrance exam, clearing it, and then applying for Armed Forces Medical College. So my journey in Armed Forces Medical College was, it was awesome. I was like those were the best days of my life, I can say. And after doing my MBBS from Armed Forces Medical College, I did my internship in Military Hospital Jodhpur, which was a 500-bedded hospital, and it was again a beautiful learning experience over there. Everything was well laid out for me. The teachers were good. The experience was amazing. And then after doing my internship from military hospital, I moved for a 3 month course, which every armed forces doctor has to do. It's a medical officer basic course, as we call it MOBC. So I did my MOBC, and then I got posted with the infantry battalion. And I served in the infantry battalion as their regimental medical officer for around 3.5 years. So it was again, working with the forces, working with the troops on the front line. It was amazing experience. And after that, I got posted to a hospital in Firozpur, Punjab. And since I was a short service commission officer, I ended my journey. I resigned my commission in the year 2012, and then I did my anesthesiology.
Okay, nice. So an amazing journey, sir. So help us understand, how you went into SSC because you did your MBBS from AFMC. So how did you also post exam? Did you also had to clear any interview for AFMC
Yes.
for Army?
Actually, when I appeared for my exam, I cleared my exam. You can say there were 3 steps. I first did my exam, then I was called for the interview. All the qualified candidates were called for an interview. We gave our interview. Those who were selected in the interview were sent for medical examination. And once your medical was passed, then we were, admitted to the college. So
Okay.
there were a couple of kids who were, they had some issues with their health, and also they were rejected as well.
Okay.
But those were the 3 steps, and these 3 steps still continue to be the same. Only the first step, which was initially an exam particularly conducted by Armed Forces Medical College, has now been shifted to NEET. So you have to clear NEET, and then again you're called for the interview as per the list they select, and then there's a medical examination, and then you are inducted into the college.
Okay. Okay. And if somebody has done his MBBS or PG already, how does that person get into SSC?
For that, say somebody who has done, like I was in a military college, somebody who has done his MBBS from a civil college. So what they can do is twice in a year, the army posts out post for medical officers in the army. The interviews are conducted, and those interviews, on the basis of those interviews, people are inducted into the army. So there's no exam at that point of time, only the interview followed by a medical. If you are medically fit for the as per the army standards, and you have qualified your interview, the interview basically has questions pertaining to your psychological assessment, how tough a person you are basically. And then the medical happens. If there's something wrong with you, they give you a rejection, temporary rejection. And if it is a correctable parameter, suppose somebody is overweight, so they will give you a 4 weeks rejection. So at that point of time, you can go and get your weight reduced, and again apply for a reconsideration.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And somebody who has done PG, again, the same procedure is there. They can go for the same interview and they'll be selected as a medical officer in that particular specialty.
okay. Okay. And how, just a bit of idea, if you can give us how are the interview questions for what kind of questions are being asked from the candidates, whether it's MBBS passed out or MD or any specialization, if you have any
For
idea.
that, yeah. For that, if you want a medical officer of an army, you would want him to be independent. He should be, professionally very sound. He should be able to handle all the emergencies and, criticalities on his own individual. So the interview questions would mainly be aimed at, assessing a person's knowledge regarding how to handle a patient in emergency. Suppose if a person has undergone cardiac arrest, the candidate should be thorough with this, how to conduct CPR, how to revive a patient, how to establish IV, basic procedures, but these basics which can save life of an individual. And plus, other than that, he should have leadership qualities. So all these questions are aimed at those things, professional as well as, individual's own personality.
Okay. Okay. Nee, that makes sense, and that's really helpful because many of the people who are asking how are the interview questions there. So that's really helpful, sir. Help us also, know about the ecosystem in army. How was it there? What kind of training did you go through? A bit in detail about it.
Okay, I'll go step by step. In the basic of course that we did, we were trained in the structure of army. First of all, since although we were from AFMC, but there were also people who had joined the army from the civil background. So in the medical officers basic course, we were all taught about what is the structure of army, and overall the structure was told, and more detail was told about the structure of the army medical corps.
Okay.
How is the army medical corps structured? What are the echelons that are there? And what is the job of a medical officer? How we are supposed to conduct that? And then we were also trained into other aspects of the army life, like the mannerisms, the dressing, the parade, weapon training, cross countries, everything was there. So those 3 months, it was it was very tiring, but it was very enjoyable.
Okay.
We learned a lot in those 3 months. And after that, the ecosystem, I would say, see, as a young officer who has just been inducted into army, in all probabilities, he'll be posted in a far-flung place where he'll be a regimental medical officer, or he'll be posted in a field hospital. So you can expect, a lot of beautiful sceneries when you are posted to, say, Jammu and Kashmir, or probably, somewhere in Northeast India, or maybe even in Andaman Nicobar Islands. I was one of those fortunate people who got posted to Andaman Nicobar Islands.
Okay.
So it was a, beautiful place to be in.
Very
Lovely. Yeah, lovely journey over there. Plus, the army takes care of their own people. So there was no issue. Like little things like when we got posted, so even the tickets that we get those tickets from the army, so the train ticket. Whenever you reach a particular station, so the unit ensures that somebody is there to pick you up. They take you to the unit, and everything is ready for you. The room has been allotted, and everything is there. Most of the time, if you're as an officer, as a medical officer, if you are in an infantry unit or an armored unit, so you will definitely get a buddy. Buddy is there to help you out, especially when you are going around in the unit. You want anything, you need anything. Since you are new, you don't know what to do. So he'll be able to help you out. And plus, mess culture, it is very beautiful. The officers, they have, a lot of camaraderie, a lot of brotherhood. So even if somebody has some problem, we all are there for each other. And trust me, as a RMO, the unit will ensure that you are pampered like anything.
Okay.
They are going to pamper you with everything, each and everything. The boys are there for you always. Basically, they know that Doc Saab is going to save us. So they are there to protect you anytime, anywhere, even if you are in field or whether you are in civil. They are always ready to help you.
Okay, that's so nice to know that such a positive ecosystem out there.
Yes.
So when it comes to seniority and juniority, is there anything that affects you in the army ecosystem? No.
So see, this thing emerges from our own culture. Like we Indians, we are ready to, do we question our parents or do we question our elders most of the time? Maybe when they are wrong, yes, definitely we do. But even in army, since you are inducted in army, you have some people who are senior to you and you have to follow their command. That is there. You have to follow their command. But the same thing happens when you are, say, as a doctor, you are in a civil hospital. So
Yes,
obviously,
yes,
if you are working under a senior doctor, you have to obey their command. You have to
yes,
understand they are more knowledgeable than you.
yes,
Similarly, that has happened in army also. That happens that somebody is senior and he says that this work is to be done, then this work is to be done. But yes, if you know that the person is wrong, then you can obviously, in a respectful manner, tell them that
okay.
this thing can be done this manner. And people are perceptive enough and mature enough to understand. Okay, if this way of tackling the situation is better, then they will understand your point of view as well. So
Like
it's
that.
all a brotherly kind of atmosphere.
No, I believe as doctors, we are always trained to do that because we always look up to our seniors
Yes,
anyways.
definitely.
So good, good to know about the positive ecosystem out there. Also, I wanted to know a depth about the postings. As you told us that you have been posted in, in Punjab, in Andamans, everywhere. How was your posting? How are the border postings? Have you had any friends being posted on borders? How are their experiences?
Yes. Uh, all my friends were posted to border postings.
Okay.
Very few of them were fortunate to, stay in bigger places. But see, going as a youngster, we all want to do adventures and all. And trust me, my friends would vouch for it that they have had their share of adventure while they were in the initial years of their posting, whether it was, climbing the mountains, being in Siachen. A few of my friends were posted to Siachen as well. Those were tough times, and I'm sure they have a lot of stories to tell as well. But
Hmm.
the posting is, I believe that posting system is very fair,
Okay.
and army does listen to, a person if he has got some problem. But it
Okay.
becomes difficult to, address to each and every person's problem.
Okay.
See, you have to understand that, say, for example, we have 1,000 young medical officers, for example.
Hmm. Hmm.
At any given point of time, around 100, 200 of them would be on a course, basic course. Then there are
Hmm.
senior courses as well. Some officers will
Hmm.
be posted to those courses, senior courses. So there is always a deficiency of officer which is required in the place of requirement.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
definitely your request may not be, granted in say the very next day, but yes, they do consider, especially when people ask for spouse postings and all. So they do consider that yes, if somebody is newly married and say, even if the wife is in army, so they do try to post them together depending on the exigencies of service. They do try to do that and help them out. So posting profiles, I would say yes for doctors. It's not initial first 2 3 years. Yes, it is tough, but then you get posted to field hospitals, to hospitals where you'll be doing your clinical work. Administrative work is must for us because unlike a corporate hospital where every work is being done by one manager or the other, in
Yes.
army we are the managers. Like in when I was in Firozpur, we were around 12 officers and we were doing all sorts of jobs, including handling the medical boards, the drug supply, everything need to be
Managed by
decided
you.
by one officer. Yeah.
Hmm.
So as probably the junior most officer at that point of time in the hospital, I was handling around 11 to 12 portfolios.
Okay.
So that was fine. Apart from clinical work, most of the work we used to finish off by 2. And in the evening, we used to have a game parade and also where we used to play and all. So life was fun,
It
I
was.
would say.
It's so nice to know to have such a good work-life balance.
Yeah,
It's still
definitely.
there. It's so nice to know. Otherwise, it's very difficult for a common man to manage that.
Yes.
It's in nowadays. So help. One more thing I wanted to understand: if somebody wants to get into permanent commission from short service commission, how is the process and how do you go through that?
Initial 2 years you are on probation, so initial 2 years they will not allow you to appear for an interview. But post those 2 years, if you are medically fit, suppose you have not sustained any injury and you have continued to be in your category 1, shape 1 as we call it,
Hmm.
so then there are interview calls. You can apply for the interview that yes, I want to convert from short service office commission to permanent commission. And
Okay.
as per your confidential report and your performance in the army and your
Hmm.
overall uh, the requirement also of the army,
Hmm.
they convert your commission from short service commission to permanent commission.
Okay.
And say somebody wants to stay in army and he is about to finish a short service commission. So they have an option of extension also.
Okay.
So let's say somebody joins from civil, he has got a 5-year commission. So after 5 years, he can apply for an extension.
Okay.
So mostly people get an extension for another 5 years. And even in those 5 years, he will get a chance of appearing for permanent commission interviews.
Okay.
Yes. So in the first commission, as I remember, there were 2 interviews. You can appear for 2 interviews. And in the second extension, you can appear for 1 interview.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And how are these interviews?
Interviews basically are there to assess an individual's, mindset, whether he is fit for army or not. At times, what happens is there are some people who will get, they are not happy with the postings and all. They may not be very happy being in army, or the army feels that yes, this individual is better over that individual. Like permanent commission seats are not those many as much as the short service seats. So definitely they'll have more people appearing for the interview than the number of permanent commission required seats as well. So yes, they will have certain criteria that one person who has got better recommendation in terms of his annual confidential report, or in the interview when they are assessing the individual, they find that yes, he's more motivated to stay in the army. He has got more reasons that he'll do better in the army. So he's given preference definitely.
Nee, that's true. So one more thing I wanted to ask is, if somebody, could you enlighten us on permanent commission? If somebody wants to do PG in army itself, how does that person also goes through the PG procedure during short service commission?
Okay, so during short service commission, like short service commission, I would tell, if you are from AFMC, you will have to serve for 7 years minimum in the initial your short service tenure, and your extension again would be of 7 years. For somebody who is from outside, it is 5 years plus 5 years plus 4 years. So you can leave at 5 years, or you can extend for another 5 years, and at the end of 10 years, if you want, you can extend for another 4 years. Okay. Now, for both these categories, for short service from AFMC and from outside, you can appear for your PG exam at the end of your 7th year.
7th year, okay.
Yeah, 7th year of your service, you can appear. If you are a permanent commission officer, you can give the exam in your 4th year.
Okay. So,
okay. So that is it. Yeah.
When you told me that after AFMC, you have to do a short service commission for 7 years. So if you want to go for PG, you had to extend your...
You have to extend. Yes, you have to extend. By default, your extension would be of a total 14 years then. Say you are somebody who is from outside would be in his first extension. Yes. He's already done 5 years of service. He has taken 1 extension. He's now in 7th year. So he's already in 2nd extension. He'll by default be given a 2nd extension as well, so that he serves a total of 14 years. So whether you are from AFMC or you are from a civil college, you'll have to serve a total of 14 years if you are a short service officer who has done his post-graduation from army.
Okay. So is there any quota for PG candidates or
something? Yes, definitely. First priority is given to the permanent commission officers. They are called as category 1 officers. So they appear for their PG in the 4th year of their service. Second category is for short service officers. So the second priority is for short service officers. Third priority is for officers from sister services, as I would like to call them, say BSF, CRPF, and Reserve Police Forces. Okay. The fourth priority is for ex-servicemen candidates. Like I did my post-graduation from Army Hospital R&R, and I was category 4 ex-servicemen candidate. And fifth priority is given to the civilians who are directly from the civil background. They can even do their post-graduation from Army Institute, but then they have to, serve in Army after finishing their post-graduation for 5 years.
Okay, but you were not bound to do that.
No, since I've already done my short service, so category 4, they can do their post-graduation. Yes. Okay. And they're free to go, go in the civil world. Yeah.
Okay. That's nice to know about, the depths of how to go through this. So what were your, challenges during your short service commission? Anything that you want to mention that was difficult time that you want people to stay aware of?
For me, I would say life was not that difficult. I know I had my share of enjoyment, like moving around from one place to another. Yes, people find it difficult, but for army takes care of every aspect of that. Say you even get paid for transferring from one place to another. So you are
Hmm.
even paid for that, so you don't lose out on your money. Plus, unit is there to help you for every aspect of your life, whether you are shifting, whether you are traveling, and even if say when you go on temporary duties and all, people are there to help you. My daughter was born, I had to go on a temporary duty. So the unit ladies, they were there to help my wife for every other thing. You never feel left out alone. The security is never an issue when you are in the
Hmm.
cantonment. So things are good over there,
Hmm.
and postings and everything, they are taken care of. I would say that if you are in army, you will enjoy your life. You just have to have a positive attitude.
Hmm. Yes, yes. Anyways, in your life, you need to have a positive attitude to stay happy. It's
Definitely.
not in army, it's everywhere. So it's really nice to know, having all positive feedback about the same. When you moved, despite everything positive, you moved out of army, right? You
Yes.
decided not to continue and end your short service commission. So when you moved out, what were your challenges? How did you, get into the civil
That
world?
was a challenge. Yes, that was a challenge. My last year in army, I was pretty stressed out. Being through and through in the army. I did my education in army. Then I stayed for 7 years in army as a commissioned officer. So going out in civil world was a little bit, threatening to me. I didn't know what to expect, whether I would be able to clear the exam, get a post graduation, whether I'm doing right or not. But still, we had thought it for a long time. So I took the plunge, and then I cleared the exam as well and did my PG. But though that year after I left my commission, that year was pretty intense. I had to wait for my PG for 1 year. In the first
Hmm.
attempt, I could not clear. I cleared my exam in the second attempt. So
Hmm.
that was a tough time staying out, managing my finances. Yes, financial aspect was difficult. But even then, I would like to thank Army for that, because once I did my service, so I had enough gratuity, my provident fund, the money that I had received was enough to, help me sail through that year financially. With
Hmm.
mental stress, yes, it was there because there was a lot of uncertainty. And but as the years passed by, as I landed my seat, post graduation seat, things started becoming smooth, and then it
Hmm.
was comfortable.
So how do you compare your life now and your life in army?
Now, an army, if I would compare, so I would like to give all the brownie points to the army in terms of work-life balance.
Yes.
The work-life balance in army is much better as
Hmm.
compared to when you are in civil. I cannot say for a young officer, but when I see youngsters around me these days, and when I compare my life when I was a youngster in army, like young, fresh pass out as an MBBS doctor, so I had a better life. I would say that. So I had a much better life, much better salary, much better work-life experience. Uh, Balance was amazing. Morning we had to go for PT, and then we had our patients, and then in the evening again we had game parade. Plus, we used to have a lot of parties. That's one of the best part of army. You get to go to a lot of parties, and every time you have to, eat good food also. Good food, drink, everything. So work-life balance as a young officer, it was amazing.
Hmm.
Nowadays, when I compare myself with my other batchmates, I would say that yes, even today they are having a better work-life balance, because see, by hook or by crook, they cannot work beyond their working hours. They
Hmm.
cannot go out in civil and practice. Here in civil, we have that deal. Okay, let's practice a few more. Let's
Hmm.
get a few more cases done and everything like that. So their work-life balance remains much better. Here
Hmm.
you can say for a few specialities, people can earn more. Army, there would be a capping of on your earning. Definitely, you cannot go beyond a certain earning. But definitely, as far as work-life balance is concerned, nothing can beat being in army, or in armed forces services
Hmm.
anyway, whether it is navy or air force.
Yes, yes. I also feel so, in civil world, the biggest problem is work-life balance and to manage everything from house to
Yeah.
work. Yes. And you're lucky that you experienced that amazing phase.
Yeah, it was one of the best days in my life.
Yes. So, what are your, words that you want to, some inspirational words for the doctors who aspire to get into the army, who are looking forward to get into the army? What do you want, how do you want to guide them?
I would like to tell them that first of all, they should aim at being physically fit first of all, so that they are not rejected in their interviews and medicals. And they should have a positive attitude towards their life overall, because that is going to help them even if they don't pass their interview. The positive attitude is going to help them even if they are in civil life forever. Plus, army is on the lookout for those youngsters who will be happy, who will be able to guide people around them. If you are posted in a far-flung area and if you are not happy, so you are going to be a burden on the unit as well. So be
Hmm.
happy about what you are going to get. Be tough. Being happy and being tough at the same time, that is more important. So you
Yes.
need to have a strong mental core for that.
Hmm.
You should be able to handle all kind of pressures. Professionally, you have to be good. There's no doubt about it. You have to be, able to manage. You have to be quick thinker. You should
Hmm.
be able to, find out solutions for problems. So if you are able to do that, I don't think that you cannot clear the interview. If you know the basics of your subject, if you know the basics of, getting around things,
Hmm.
if you are street smart, yes, you can do that. And if you are planning to join army for youngsters who want to do that, I would say go for it. You'll never regret being in army, even if you join for 5 years or if you want to continue throughout. So there's nothing can be better than that.
That's so nice and so, so inspiring to actually listen to. you know we have a lot of questions asked. I will just quickly try to cover all of them, as well as we have a lot of live questions also being asked by people.
Okay.
So some of them, one, Dr. Hardeep wants to know, what is the benefit of SSC over state government job? Is there any benefit of short service commission over state government job?
Uh, See, the benefit aspect in terms of profession, if you say, I think getting a post graduation, if you are a short service officer, would be easier as
Hmm.
compared to when you are in state government or if you are in say sister services like in BSF and CRPF and all. Because I could see that people who are joining from BSF and all, they are mostly far more senior in their service. They get to land PG quite late in their service.
Hmm. Hmm.
So although as a short service officer you'll be getting PG after 7 years, but still those
Hmm.
7 years are still earlier than others. Other
Yes.
state services, maybe in a state, maybe you'll be living at your home and that could be an advantage. But other than that, I would say that no other service can give you the quality of life that you'll get in a short service officer.
Okay.
Plus that rank that you get that stays for you throughout. Like I am a major for my life now.
Yes.
So
Yes.
nobody can take that away.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that's true. That's true. This is something that you get for life.
Yeah.
So the other question is, Dr. Aman has asked that he's doing his MBBS and he has disoriented teeth. So whether he will be disqualified in his physical examination, he wants to inquire that.
As far as I remember, for qualifying the dental this thing, you need to have 14 dental points. What is that exactly? I'll not be able to tell you. Basically, it has something to do with the approximation of the upper jaw and not lower jaw. So it has to be 14 dental points. I don't remember the exact nitty-gritties of how these are calculated.
Hmm.
So they basically see how it is. If you have 14 dental points, if you're able to chew the food, probably you'll pass. So you'll clear the dental exam. Yeah.
Another question that we got is there any language problems during the selection in the army? Is it important that we need to know all
No.
the English, Hindi, or something?
No, no. I think you should be able to communicate because in army you will find people are from all sorts of backgrounds. Like army itself has a lot of regiments, Madras regiments, Golka regiments. So people speak a lot of languages. So if you are, and I have seen a lot of officers who were, somebody who's from South India is talking to his Golkhali troops in Gorkhali and somebody who is a Gorkha officer talking to somebody in Tamil. That you learn, you pick up in due course of time. Look, I
Yes.
can understand a little bit of Gorkhali. I can understand a little bit of Marathi as well. That I have picked during my tenure in army. So language is not a barrier. People are from all sorts of, linguistic backgrounds, and they are able to, do very well in army. You should
Hmm.
be able to have basic command over your native language. That is fine.
Hmm.
And then you'll pick up as you go along. When you suppose if you're posted in a unit which speaks a particular language, so you'll be able to pick up that language. That's not a problem, and you'll be able to understand, and people are able to communicate. That's not an issue.
Okay, okay. Another question that we have got live is, people want to understand, is there any criteria for entering army for an MBBS? So it's basically interview and physical and
Interview,
examination.
yes, interview, and after that, if you clear the interview, then you go for your medical. So you should you should have good
Is
eyes and
there a
everything.
weight, is there a weight criteria also during the physical fitness examination? Yes.
Weight criteria, weight, yes, you need to have a normal weight. You should be between a BMI of 18 to 23. That is it.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And the other question was, is there an entry for physiotherapists also there in army? Do you have? If so,
No, I'll not be able to answer that correctly because as far as I remember, while I was in Army Hospital, R&R uh, physiotherapy was there, but they were not commissioned. They
okay,
were doing their physiotherapy, but they were not officers or they were not in the army per se. But yes, there must be. There must be few of them. There are people who do physiotherapy and then they join army, but they don't join as officers as far as I know.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
So there is Dr. Krishna who is asking, that I have my interview on 26th August and my BMI is 24. So are there chances for me to get selected?
Yes, definitely, you will have chances to get selected.
Oh,
They don't only see that whether you are overweight. They need to see if you are say muscular, if you exercise a lot, then your weight would be slightly more than what is recommended, and they do consider these things. And
hmm.
हो सकता है they may give you a temporary rejection for that. कि, okay, you need to reduce 3 kgs, 4 kgs. So you
Yeah.
can do that in a couple of weeks time, and you can again apply. So that is not going to be a problem.
Okay. And one more question we have is, what is the minimum, qualification to join when joining through NEET exam?
Sorry. Pass percentage.
What are pass percent? What are the minimum? What are the minimum qualification to join when joining through NEET exam?
So I think
There was your
you should qualify. You
you
should
should
qualify the
qualify.
NEET. Yeah,
Yes,
you should
yes.
qualify the NEET, and you have to select AFMC, uh,
Hmm.
and then there would be a list which would be propagated, and depending on that list, you will be called for interview.
Yes. Okay.
In our times, it used to be three lists: first list, then first waiting, then second waiting. Again, the same procedure must be being followed at this point of time. Not
Hmm.
everybody who qualifies NEET opts for AFMC.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So you have to opt for AFMC, and then you can see where you land.
Hmm. So, is there a difference between Army, Navy, and Air Force?
Yes, there is a difference, but the selection criteria is same initially. When
Okay.
a doctor who is inducted into the army is
Hmm.
part of army medical force, and then they are seconded to navy and air force. So they will have a army number as well and a navy number or a air force number as
Hmm.
well. So and people can switch uniforms also
Okay.
depending on the requirement in army. There are many
Hmm.
friends of mine who have switched their uniforms
Hmm.
after these 14 years of service. A lot of my
Okay.
friends have switched uniforms. So somebody who was in army has now gone into navy. Somebody who was in navy has joined army.
Okay.
That happens. Yes, this is happening. And so there's no worries. If you want to join navy, uh, there are interviews for navy. You can go for navy, or maybe later in service you can change. Nowadays, like during super specialty examination, some of my friends had to change their uniform because the subject that they did their super specialty in was required in navy.
Okay.
So that is an example. They have to switch the uniform depending
Okay.
on where. So Army Medical Corps is one basically, and then you are seconding. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So there is Dr. Shreya who is asking that my eye power is -3. in both the eyes. Do you think it is a problem for me to get selected?
Yes, likely. But she'll have to check the parameters. But I think -3 is a bit too high. She'll have to check. I think it's -2.5. I'm not very sure though.
Okay.
She'll have to check on the parameters that are allowable in the army.
Okay, so there is one person who is asking, is there any mistake that needs to be avoided during the interview? That you think? Or
mistake basically, don't be over frank, be respectful, because anybody who's conducting your interview would be either a brigadier or above. They are very senior people. Okay, and you're too junior for them, and you should be, presenting yourself as a respectful individual who respects authority and who is ready to, accept and follow commands. Also, should be able to lead people. Because you are basically as a youngster, you should be able to lead also, and you should also be able to follow.
Yes.
So a lot of roles and responsibilities are being assigned to them, so you have to be multifaceted.
Okay. So there's one, Dr. Arpit asking, when you join the army as a postgraduate officer or a graduate officer, are both of them given the same ranks at the same level? If somebody
initially,
yes, please.
No. Actually, what happens is, if you join as a plain MBBS doctor, you'll be given the rank of a captain.
Okay.
If you are joining from civil, you'll be given the rank of a captain. But if you are a postgraduate doctor, you'll be given a rank of captain for a period of around 6 months or so. You get an antecedent, what we call as antecedent seniority. So in that thing, you'll be probably for around 6 months or so, you'll be as a captain, and then you'll be promoted to major within 6 months. And your seniority would be counted from earlier. See, basically, whenever you are joining as a specialist, you are basically called as MO specialist, say MO ophthalmologist, medical officer ophthalmologist. To be considered a specialist in army, you have to go through army's another grading system, which is we call as grading in army. After you've completed your grading, then you are considered a full specialist in army. So basically, they assess. Suppose you have done your training from any institute, so army is going to assess your training over a period of a month or so. You are posted under a senior officer who is going to assess you. Then your grading is completed, and you are given the rank of a graded specialist. So then you'll be promoted to major. Okay, and mostly you are kept as a captain. Once you do your basic course and everything, you get promoted if you are a specialist. And those who are MBBS, they'll have to stay as a captain for 2 years, which is the duration of being a captain. And then after 2 years, 4 years, you'll be promoted to a major. Not 2 years, 4 years.
Okay.
2 years is for lieutenant. When you are a lieutenant, those who join army as in other arms, they are 2 years as lieutenant, then 4 years as captain.
Okay. We got that. So one more thing, one person asked, what is the difference between medical corps and dental corps? Does a dentist also who joins the army goes through the exact same journey?
Yes, similar journey, I would say. Not exact same journey, because see, there are two different corps, Army Medical Corps and Army Dental Corps. We call them sister corps. So an Army Dental Corps officer would join the army. Unlike a medical officer, he'll not be posted in extreme, just alongside the, infantry battalion also, but he'll be posted in front lines in the field hospital. And as far as job responsibilities and all is concerned, is almost similar, because he will also be doing administrative jobs in the field hospital along with his patients and everything. And he will again get the same kind of, this exposure as far as army is concerned, patient-wise as well as administration-wise. Also, the rules for post-graduation would be similar. Like, he'll have to serve as a BDS qualified dental officer for around 4 years if he's permanent commission, and then he can apply for his exam. I think it's NEET dental now. Dental, I'm not sure whether NEET a dental exam. Yes. So then he has to qualify that, and then he can opt for MDS in maybe in R&R Delhi or in Pune, AFMC. So the journey is similar. Yes, it is similar.
Okay.
Yes. little bit of difference in posting profile definitely there is. Again, they can be posted to, they get posted to, Navy and Air Force.
Yes, because there's not much of a difference. It's just the training points are different, but otherwise the journeys are the same.
Yes. Similar.
Yeah, so we tried to cover maximum of the questions, and it's so nice and insightful to know about your journey and about everything. Thanks so much, doctor, for answering all of these questions so patiently and helping us know about this in detail. So I'm sure all of you have got all the insights. Please do share this interview with all of your friends as well as colleagues, so that they also get helped by this amazing insightful interview, and also help them to stay motivated for their journey if they want to join the army. And also, if you have yourself have some interesting story and you want to share it with other people, do connect with us. We will like to cover your story as well. Thank you so much, doctor, and do stay tuned for do stay tuned next Sunday at 11 a.m. again for again an interesting story we will be coming up with. So thank you so much, everyone, to stay tuned, to be here, and to hear this interesting story. Thank you so much, doctor, to come again. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.